So Jill, you've been asking me loads of questions about viol playing and viol techniques and lots about the instrument, and I get to ask you some questions about composing now, because I just think it makes you an absolute wizard. I wonder where, when we first met, we met because somebody else had commissioned a piece for voices and for viols, and at the time, you'd never met a viol player before, and I'd never had a piece written for the group that I play in, and I just wonder where on earth you start when somebody says, "Will you write for this combination of people?" What do you do?
Um, Basically, what I did is say, "Help! I need to talk to you. I need to
I
learn
remember.
everything I can about the instruments because what happens when you're a composer, you never stop learning. Even though, for instance, I don't know, I played trumpet in my time, so I know quite a lot about the trumpet. I would still, if I got asked to write a piece for trumpet, go to that trumpet player and ask them like masses of questions and find out what they feel comfortable with, what they don't feel comfortable with. And it's the same approach with viols. The only difference is I knew really nothing about it. So it's taken me a long time to get to grips with the sound of the viols because it's something I struggled with quite a bit. You probably don't know this, but it was they're lovely in that's why they need the resonance of the room, I think. Um, and we did a recording just recently on your Michael East
We
CD.
did,
We did a
yeah.
piece of mine right at the end and recorded it. And what was it, Girton Hall in Cambridge?
Girton College, Cambridge, in the
Girton
Channel Islands.
College.
Yeah.
And the acoustic there was so perfect for these instruments, and they just I think I really started falling in love with them a bit more when I heard them in that natural setting. And I think that's the thing about any instrument is getting to know the instruments, because if you hear something out of context, it just doesn't maybe gel with you. And I think I think as a composer, I have to love it, have to feel passionate about it. I mean,
You've
yes,
got to
of course.
love the sound that you're writing
Yeah,
for. Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
So it was a real voyage of discovery, and I still am discovering it. And I know at some point we want to do a contemporary album of our music, but
yeah.
I've got lots more discovering to do. So yeah, that was the beginning. So yeah.
So the first time we met that first piece, it was somebody else's idea, and they came to you and said, "Will you write for this lineup?" But for the language of bells, that wasn't the way it worked. You said to me, "I've got this mad idea, and I think I'd like to write for viol consort and voices and percussion. What do you think?" And that
Yeah.
came from you. So again, I wonder, what on earth gave you that idea? Where did it come from? And what made you think it would work?
I don't know. I think composing is like painting. It's textures. So you combine. Hopefully, you don't combine colours and get a cruddy brown, horrible ugh colour, but you get something really multicoloured and beautiful. And it's just like it's not writing for unusual instruments with other instruments for the sake of it. It's thinking, I wonder what would happen. And I was working with Evelyn Glennie at the time on another piece, and I was writing for marimba and vibraphone, and I just thought, what a beautiful combination to do vibraphone and viols.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be really fantastic, and then voices would come into the mix as well. So that's kind of what we're doing here, but we've expanded that. It's not just this; it's like a whole concept that we've come up with. So it's a little bit different from the initial concept, which we can maybe revisit another time. But it's expanded into this whole piece that has lots of other percussion in it as well. So yeah, yeah.
And what about the bells idea as a theme? Where did that come from?
The bell idea was uh, because I was thinking about the London Festival of Contemporary Church Music, where we premiered the original piece that we did together. And then I was thinking about, okay, vibraphone and viols and voices. And then it got me thinking, well, what would you do with that? And it's like the biggest church I think they had was the Pancras in that festival. And I thought, well, how about you do a whole concert program around the concept of the bell? And that's actually where that came from. So this has been on the back burner for a long time, good many years actually.
Yeah.
So it's
It's
very
exciting,
exciting.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
really
Yeah, yeah.
exciting to do it. Yeah.
Does it, when you write and you're thinking about the instruments and you're thinking about the people and you're thinking about what their strengths and weaknesses are of things that you're writing for, do you take into account the space that you might hear and perform that piece in? Would you write differently maybe if it was being written for recording than if it was being written for live performance? And does the space
Yeah,
matter?
I think that's a really good question, and actually very, very relevant to the viols as well, because we've talked about that viols play the room. So it wouldn't really work in a very dry atmosphere, I don't think. And the very first piece, again, that we did was in, I can't remember the name of the church, but it had this acoustic where it went on for like 15 seconds, this reverb. So I knew that it had a huge acoustic, so I wrote Revelation, that piece, with that in mind. So it would, you know, these sounds would just drop into this well of reverb, if you like. But yes, I do think of the spaces depending on what it is. But especially this one, I mean, I think we've already said that, you know, when we're touring this, we'd like to do it in spaces that are quite resonant. So, which is a double-edged sword, because when we come to the really exciting bit, it's you lose some of that clarity, but then it all goes into the mix anyway. So yeah.
Amazing. I'm so excited by this. The process that goes into bringing together a bunch of musicians and basically handing over to the wizard in the composer's box and saying, run with it, and just seeing you work that out. I've never had the experience of working alongside somebody writing specifically.
Yeah, it's the same for me. You know, it's like, so, you know, I work on it, talk to you, and I like to talk to musicians all the way along in the process as well, because it's like, it's getting the excitement going for all of us.
Yeah.
And out of those conversations, certain things happen, like we were having a conversation about a programme piece, and you mentioned a piece about, what was it, the London piece with the markets and...
Oh, the Gibbons, the Cries of London, with the market traders selling their various things. Yeah.
So we thought we wouldn't do that, but part of the passing of time of day of the bell is like, you know, going through a street. So I've cut that down, but we have a piece in there which is rather fun called The Coffee Shop. Which is just using everybody's voices, and it's just a bit of fun to lighten the programme up a bit for us all, which is really good. I've lost my thread, I'm really sorry. Right, you're asking about, oh yes, so we were asking about, it's two-sided, because I get ideas from talking to you, loads of ideas, so we bounce off each other, and also it's when I give it back to you and you go, help! Once you've got past that help stage, it's really interesting, because that's where the whole piece comes to life. It gets out of my head, out from the paper, and then something else happens to it. And this I've had happen every time when I'm working with musicians of your calibre and Evelyn's calibre. It changes into something absolutely amazing, and it has all the energy of all these people playing it, and it is quite extraordinary. So this is why I would say samples are brilliant to help you actually realise some of the textures and ideas, but there's nothing like real players playing it. It's just, you can't beat that, really can't.
And it's such an excitement for us too, to feel like we're somehow part of that creative process, that we're actually helping to make it and to write it together. You can hear, I think you can hear our voices in what you write, and that's just really exciting. It's a whole collaborative result of all the things that we've talked about and tried and discussed along the way. So can't wait.
Yeah. Watch this space.